Hi, I'm Jay Link, President of Stewardship Ministries. Over the past few years, I've become increasingly uncomfortable with the term generous giving. In spite of that, I personally like the term. Both the words generous and giving are used in Scripture, albeit not in the same place very often. In Psalm 37:21 and James 1:5 they are. However, as I continue to try to personally embrace and consistently apply the concept of biblical stewardship in my own thinking in life, the use of the term generous giving has been creating in me more and more uneasiness. And let me tell you why. If someone labels a man a generous giver, it seems to imply two things about that man. Number one, what he gives is his to give, and two, he decides how much to give, which is what makes him generous. Within the context of biblical stewardship, however, both of these implications would be at least misleading, if not patently incorrect. Let me make this point by asking you a question. Is it appropriate to describe a person as a generous giver if what he was giving is not his to give in the first place? Let me frame the question to be even more personal. Would you describe a man as a generous giver if what he was giving away was, unknown to you, coming out of your personal checking account and not his own? I suspect you might have a few descriptive terms for him, but generous giver would probably not be one of them. Consider this hypothetical scenario. Imagine a very rich man decides to give his nephew $1 million in cash. He calls his nephew and informs him that he is mailing him the certified letter with a cashier's check in it for $1 million. And the check will be arriving tomorrow. The next day the doorbell rings, and there before the nephew stands the postman. The nephew can barely contain himself as the postman asks him to sign for the letter. The postman then hands the young man the envelope. The young man bursts forward, grabbing the postman in all the enthusiastic embrace, gushing with thanks at how generous he is and how much the nephew appreciates his kindness for giving him such a generous gift. He repeats over and over again, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are just so generous." What's wrong with this picture? The truth is, the postman did indeed give the nephew a cashier's check for $1 million. What is wrong is that the postman is getting all the acknowledgement and appreciation for making a gift that he merely delivered for someone else. He was in reality nothing more than the individual charged with the responsibility of delivering the gift to the proper person. I suspect the postman would have likely been quite surprised by the nephew's overflowing gratitude for making such a simple, normal delivery as part of his routine duties. Do you see my point? If we are merely stewards or managers of our master's property and not the owners, then nothing is ours to give away in any amount. And if our master, the owner, instructs us to deliver someone a gift from his abundance of which we are caretakers, then we are really being nothing more than obedient stewards commissioned to make the delivery to the designated recipient as instructed by the owner. When I was a young boy, there was a television show called The Millionaire. It ran from 1955 to 1960. And for some reason, that show had a significant impact on me as a child. In the series, a very wealthy gentleman named John Beresford Tipton Jr. would randomly give $1 million tax-free to people that were complete strangers to him. How Tipton delivered the cashier's check was through his executive secretary, Michael Anthony. In each episode, Anthony would deliver Tipton's check to the different individual. The rest of the show followed what happened to the recipient because of the gift, and as I remember, it was almost always a bad outcome. As he delivered the check, Anthony would make it quite clear that the gift was not coming from him, but from someone else who insisted on remaining anonymous. He was simply delivering the gift from this unknown benefactor. It seems to me this is the way it should be with us and our giving. We have been entrusted with assets for the purpose of delivering them to the intended recipients as per the directive of the benefactor. Now, when I watched that show, The Millionaire, I never thought of Anthony as being personally generous simply because he was the one delivering the checks. I only thought of him as doing his job, a fun job, no doubt. Jesus describes this very idea in Luke 17, verses 7 through 10, when he says, "Which of you, having a slave plowing or tending sheep, will say to him when he has come in from the field, 'Come immediately and sit down and eat'? But will he not say to him, 'Prepare something for me to eat, and properly clothe yourself, and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you may eat and drink'? He does not thank the slave because he did the things which were commanded, does he? So you too, when you do all the things which are commanded you, say, 'We are unworthy slaves. We have done only that which we ought to have done.'" No matter how much we ultimately deliver of God's resources to the intended recipients, would the description of generous giver ever be appropriately applied to us because we have only done that which we ought to have done? Maybe instead of using the term generous giver, it would be more appropriate to use the term obedient courier. This term, I believe, more accurately describes the proper stewardship mindset we should have in delivering generous gifts from the one and only generous giver. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5:16, Jesus expresses this very idea when he says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works," that's the delivery of the generous gifts, "and give glory to your Father who is in heaven, the provider of that generous gift." As we all seek to be good and faithful stewards, carefully and responsibly carrying out the delivery assignments of the generous giver, may we never lose sight of the fact that at most we are unworthy slaves, having done only that which we ought to have done. As we complete the remaining days of our life journey, may each of us come to fully appreciate and joyfully embrace the sacred honor of humbly serving our generous benefactor as His obedient courier.